Cool. So welcome to the Pakistan Dynamic 365 and Power Platform community group. And I'm really thankful everyone who has joined us today. And special thanks to our speaker, Chris, who has taken out of his very busy schedule. So thank you so much, Chris, again. A little bit about Pakistan Dynamics community here. And I would really like to thank all the volunteers who have come forward, who have spent time with me in making this community more stronger, and all the speakers, especially and attendees. Without attendees, no event can be a successful. So thank you so much, all the attendees today. Uh, what is Pakistan Dynamics 65 and Power Platform community? It's a place where everyone can share knowledge. If you want to talk about, if you want to speak on this platform, please come forward, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm very much happy to host you. Uh, where we, like as Chris did mention, this is the place where we come closer to each other, we can upskill each other, and then make the community more stronger. You make good connections out of it. You learn a lot in a very short period of time. In next 1 hour, we are going to learn a lot from Chris, which I think if I would have done this one myself, I could take around a month. But this is how the community is getting stronger and upskilling each other. You can, if you want to speak in any language, regardless from any part of the world, please come forward and I'm happy to host you. My aim is to create a community in Pakistan more stronger so that I can help people to enhance their knowledge, network, and experience throughout the whole Microsoft ecosystem, not limiting to finance and operations, customer engagement, power platform. I'm talking about the whole ecosystem. So we are hosting a session across the whole ecosystem from Microsoft. So where I have been requesting to join the group, here are the this very easy way you can follow us on LinkedIn. Just search for the Pakistan Dynamics 365 and Power Platform community. You can request there to join. We have our meetup page. All the sessions are invited and broadcasted through meetup there, and all the recordings will be uploaded to the YouTube channel. With this one, I'll quickly hand over to one and only the legend, Chris. Going to talk about the Power Platform Unfiltered. So I'm very excited to hear from one and only Chris. Uh, it's up to you. Stage is for set for you, Chris.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Faisal. I appreciate being here, and I really appreciate everyone coming along. Yeah, this is going to be a fun session. So I'm going to share my screen and just let's see. Hopefully it comes through. Let's share the right screen. There we are. Boom. Cool. Can you guys confirm that you can see that?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. So, right. Hey, everyone. So I'm Chris Huntingford. I'm the Global Power Apps Lead here at Avanade. And today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about the Power Platform. Now, I realize some of you on the call probably have heard about this, and a lot of you are going, hey, Microsoft's spoken to us about this. Everyone in the community spoken to us about this. We're bored as everything around Power Platform. We're going to take a little bit more of a different approach to the platform. And let's see, hopefully you like it. Yeah, so let's get started. So effectively, if you guys need to catch me on social media, you can do that. I do want to tell you a quick story. Everyone asks me this, so everyone thinks my office is absolutely crazy, and it is. I know that. But behind me, it says the word maker, right? And it's made out of Lego. So I sat with my kids at home and I built out this cool little set of tech. And the reason I like the word maker is because when you're building solutions in the Power Platform, Microsoft call you makers, right? The maker experience. And in Lego, they call their master builders and their builders makers as well. So I like that. And I thought like, hey, it's a cool contrast to make. So congratulations, folks. You're all Power Platform makers. Anyway, let's get cracking. Right. So these are the typical sort of marketing slides that you're going to get during a presentation done in any Power Platform sense. Now, they come up with a bunch of stats. Now you can see this is all followed by Gartner and Forrester, and people will say that the app market is growing 5 times. The demand for mobile apps has grown 5 times in the last few years, and in the next 5 years we'll be building 500 million apps, and the low code, no code application will be responsible for more than 65% of solutions built. Basically, this slide is saying to you, get on the bus or miss the bus, right? This is the bus, the airplane has started, right? If you don't get on, you're going to get left behind from a technology perspective. Now, I did say this was unfiltered, so be prepared because this is going to set the tone for the rest of the presentation. So just know, those of you that are dealing in things like legacy X++ and finance and operations are still writing thousands of plugins and customer engagements, or living in the world of in-depth C# code. Sorry, folks, but Power Platform's kind of covering a lot of that. That being said, we're going to give you an opportunity as developers if you are one. So if you're a functional person, you've got to start learning how to configure the Dynamics platforms, the modern workplace platforms, and building on top of Azure using the Power Platform. I'm going to tell you a little story. So believe me, this technology is not going anywhere, right? This isn't a phase. This isn't something that's just randomly happening. This is real. So you've got to start learning, right? A couple other things that are pretty important. When you speak to organizations, what they typically say is, I don't know about you. So I used to write code, believe it or not. I don't write any code now. I don't need to. But back in the day, I used to work for a company called Borland. Borland wrote a tool called Delphi 5. Now, when I used to write solutions, it took me months and months, lots of time. And I had to build out, I did object-oriented programs. So I had programming. So I had to build out my back end. I had to write my data structures in Interbase or SQL or whatever was there. I was using things like paradox tables, and then I had to write an interaction layer on top of that, connecting up to the data source using connection strings. And then once I'd done that, I had to build a user experience layer on top of it. Now, that took a while. Okay. Now, organizations are expecting us to build things faster. So again, if you're not on the bus and you can't build it faster, let me tell you what, somebody else will. Okay. So I can tell you right now, if you go to an organization and say to them, you're going to build them a solution that's going to take you 6 months, it's likely that in low code, no code, I can build that exact same solution in 2 months. Okay. So it's important that you know that this stuff is really key and organizations are looking for it, right? But I will tell you, if you're a custom dev, you're in a better position than anyone else. The other thing that's really important is that organizations nowadays, they've got so much data. Do you know that when I used to go to these events hosted by Microsoft and Salesforce and Google, you had people in lovely dresses or suits and ties standing on stage saying, hey, you need to get as much data as you can. And we got loads and loads of data, but no one ever told you what to do with that data. No one said to you, you've got all this data, now take it and build a really kick-ass Power BI report. Or take that data and use artificial intelligence and analyze it. No one told you to, no one told you to do that, right? So organizations have got more than 85% of orgs have data that they aren't using. So we're lucky because in the Power Platform, we can tell you what to do with that data. Now, let's get on to one of my favorite slides. You're probably thinking, man, this guy's nuts. How can this be a favorite slide? But it is. And I'll tell you why. When I was, I'm South African. I live in the United Kingdom in a place called Reading. And what happened when I got here? So South Africa was a little bit behind the times as far as things like technology goes. So we didn't really, when Dynamics CRM went online, we were still using on-prem. Most of our implementations were on-prem. In fact, we didn't go online. Before I even left, we hadn't gone online, right? So it's been a while. Now, when you're doing digital transformation in a company, when you're trying to transform the way an organization works, there are lots of things that happen that are challenging. Now, when you chat to IT organizations, they always complain about time and budget. Every IT organization you chat to will complain that they don't have budget. It's like, oh, we don't want to pay for that app. We can't afford to pay for licenses. I'll get onto that later. Things like business expectations are consistently changing all the time. It's really difficult to manage process. When I moved to the UK, I walked into what we call a housing association here. They help manage the way that houses are built and distributed. And they were still sticking post-its on each other's screens when they got phone calls instead of using email. And that was crazy. So it's very difficult to maintain and manage all those types of things from a process perspective. A couple of other challenging things. I'm pretty sure some of you have heard of shadow IT. So that's kind of like okay, so before I moved into the Microsoft space and after I worked for Borland, I was an IT administrator. I used to work as somebody that, you know, believe it or not, I crawled around in roofs and ran network cables and, put network sockets on walls, and I installed switches and servers. And part of my job was also to manage the IT landscape for quite a big courier company. And one of the things I discovered is that people were just going to download whatever the hell they wanted to download. I couldn't stop them. I mean, in the company I was working in, they had Open Office. Don't know if you've ever heard of it. So instead of using Microsoft Office because they were too cheap to pay for a license, they were using Open Office. Like, it was really, really bad. And they had data everywhere. None of the reports could be trusted. So we tried our level best to centralize the data and centralize the app landscape, but it was really difficult. So that type of thing in an organization is a key challenge in digital transformation, right? It's really difficult to digitize an organization that, simply will not listen and will not just, start following the right thing. The governance layers are really important, right? So that being said, all these challenges have led to a couple of things, right? And those things are effectively, well, what do we do to help solve these challenges? Well, the first thing we do is we go off and we buy what we call an off-the-shelf solution or a software as a service solution. So, excuse me, you might be working in a certain organization and you have a certain problem. What you do is you go and buy something that'll solve that issue. So you might buy, say, for example, you're working in retail and you're selling goods to somebody in a large retail store. You might buy something like a POS system that'll help you manage and sell those goods, right? A point of sale, which is fine. Okay. So those are the types of solutions that you're really going to want to pay for. But when you can't find something, well, what do? You get somebody that can write code to build it for you. So what you do is, instead of going to get something already pre-built, a developer comes in and they write a lot of custom code. Now, here's the thing. What if that developer goes somewhere else? What if that developer decides to move country and can't support you? Okay. Well, you, my friends, then have a thing called technical debt that you need to be able to maintain. So in the Power Platform, we're not really looking to replace all of that. We're not really looking to say, yeah, we want to stop people from building stuff. What we want to do is build next to all of it. Okay. We want to get rid of all those manual spreadsheets, those disparate data structures. We want to fix your manual processes. We want to make sure that all those things that are not automated in your organization, we can automate. And that's really key. Now, again, a lot of the stuff, when you look at it, can often be quite time consuming. Microsoft have this motto and they say, what we're going to do is we're going to empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. That's Microsoft marketing, right? That's the best of it. But let me tell you, the only way you can do this is by giving people back time. The only way you will be able to achieve this is to make sure that you give people back as much time as you possibly can. Okay. So think about a customer service agent. If that customer service agent, while you're on a phone call, spends more time looking for information in the database and less time talking to you, that's bad customer service and you've had a bad experience. And because of that, you probably won't use that company again. I've moved companies from a retail perspective just because they treat me badly. Okay. So we have to give people more time to interact with other people. So the response to this is, Microsoft decided that they needed a way to give people the ability to generate and create solutions faster. Right. Now, some of you on this call will be really good at doing things in Azure, and I know that for a fact. Some of you are going to be really good at, writing custom code and incredible at doing things like cognitive services and leveraging data structures like Cosmos DB and a SQL, and that's awesome, right? Because ultimately, everything we do is built on Azure, right? So very, very key. One thing that I will say is Azure is the foundation for everything. The second thing is that a lot of you will be using things like Office 365. So you will understand things like Microsoft Teams. You'll understand security. You'll be really involved in things like making sure that SharePoint runs correctly. Now, what's pretty key is that Azure and M365 are two of the largest areas within the Microsoft platform, or the single Microsoft cloud. Business applications is the third piece, which is Dynamics. So Faisal and I were chatting earlier. We know that there's some finance and operations people on this call, hopefully. Well, there are. It's the D365 user group. And a lot of you do CRM, as it was previously known, or customer engagements. Now, that's epic because this is not the biggest part of the Microsoft platform, but it's one of the most key parts because it's really where businesses interact with data. So you've got those three areas. What Microsoft did is they said, how do we bring those three areas together? How do we make sure that people are leveraging functionality from all these three areas and building solutions really fast? So what they did was they came up with that, right? The Microsoft Power Platform. Now, you all know what this is, right? You all understand the platform. A lot of you are using Power Apps to build stuff. Some of you are building reports in Power BI. Most of you are doing automations in Power Automate Flow, purely because Microsoft Workflow in Dynamics is deprecated. And then some of you will be using chatbots in Power Virtual Agent. Now, here's the thing. This layer that you see at the top here, hopefully you're seeing my mouse move. This layer means nothing without data, okay? You cannot have any of this without having your data layer. Now, I realize that it still says Common Data Service. I'm sorry, it should say Dataverse. But it's important that you know that this layer, this interaction layer, is just a byproduct of data. If you've ever opened up a Power BI report without data, it's meaningless. It means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. A model-driven app or a Canvas app or a portal without data, what's the point? Where are you getting it? Where are you going to put the information? Like, it may as well be a user manual. You may as well create a task list, like a user manual, and put it in PowerPoint. Power Automate's goal is to move and automate data and processing. And then Power Virtual Agents, sure, you can have a chat, you can build a chat interface, but that chat without data, you may as well be talking to yourself. It's useless. So that data piece is the most important part of the platform. To randomly mute me. Good shots. When you're looking at the elements in the platform, it's pretty important to understand that all of the things that you're doing in Dynamics 365, right, is a byproduct of Power Platform. So if you're using customer engagement like field service and customer service and marketing and sales, do you know what? Those are just model-driven apps. They're made from the same digital bricks that the Power Platform provides. Okay, finance and operations is a bit of a different story because the data structures are far more complex and things like your entity models are very detailed. But your customer engagement solutions are just Power Apps, right? So if you know how to build those solutions, you also know, if you know how to use customer engagement, you also know how to use Dataverse and the byproducts of Dataverse. So it's pretty important, right? Now, this whole model here is very key. I'm not going to go into too much more detail about the top bit, but just understand that this top bit is completely reliant on the data. The most important parts are the data connectors, where we have the ability to link up into over 400 plus data sources, right? Remember, data connectivity, Microsoft basically licenses their products on data connectivity. If you're using personal productivity solutions like SharePoint, you're not going to pay a premium connector to do that. If you're using business productivity data structures like Common Data Service and Salesforce and Oracle and SQL and SAP, then you need to pay for a license to leverage these products up here, right? But it's very important that you know that the data connectors are one of the core things that set us apart, and Dataverse is our go-to data storage facility. Now, you'll note that I didn't call it a database. Dataverse is not a database. It is far from a database. A database is a thing where I just put bits of data. That's easy, right? Excel's not a database either, just by the way. But a Dataverse, or Common Data Service as it was known before, is a data storage facility. It's got much more functionality than just a database, right? So think of it as like, let me tell you, SQL is one of the building bricks for Dataverse. Cosmos DB is also one of the building bricks for Dataverse. So there's a lot more under the hood for Dataverse than just a database, right? You've got security. You've got unstructured data management in the form of custom code like plugins and JavaScript, right? So all of that stuff lives inside that data structure, sorry, that service layer, okay? So just please understand that that's really key. Another thing that we talk about a lot in the Power Platform is the fact that we will be able to help you manage, monitor, and secure the fact that you have your information and your solutions in there. So it's a governance, compliance, and security layer in the form of the Center of Excellence functionality, as well as the administration functionality. So don't for 1 minute think that the Power Platform is just about an app. It never will be, okay? The thing that bothers me slightly is when you get people on these phone calls just talking about apps. Apps are one little brick in the platform. An app is just one piece of it. It's a brick that makes up a wider house, right? An app is just something that you use to interact with data. And I'm going to show you, we can build an app in 30 seconds. Cool. What's really key is the data, right? So when we start talking to organizations about the Power Platform, there's a few things that I want to break down for you really quick before I go into the demo. So a couple of things. I know that in no world is it always going to be 5 little buckets of solutions, right? But first of all, we don't talk about apps. We talk about solutions. It's never just an app, ever. It's literally never just an app. I don't remember the last time I just built an app, right? I'm always doing data storage. I'm always doing Power Automate flows, apps. There's Power BI. There's loads of pieces that make up that platform, okay? So we categorize those into like, it's 5 basic buckets, but there's normally quite a lot more, okay? But typically, in the Power Platform, we want businesses to take on these solutions here themselves. You know, as a Microsoft partner, I don't necessarily want to be building out personal productivity or simple business cases. I mean, I can, but, you know, it's not going to be the thing that really provides value to that organization. What's going to provide value to that organization is if I show them how to do these, okay? I don't want to have to build an app on top of a SharePoint list every 5 minutes. That's not going to help me. What I want to be able to do is I want to be able to take on the complicated solutions, right? So these, what I would maybe define as apps, are going to be quite simple. These types of solutions here are going to be a lot more complicated, right? Now, think about it like this. When you look at all Microsoft's reference studies, like there's loads, Schlumberger, Chevron, there's tons and tons out there, Virgin Atlantic, Arriva buses. They'll have a lot of citizen developers building out these solutions here on their own, right? But your partner base are typically going to be creating these types of solutions here, okay? Now, what I always say to people is that when you look at the digital bricks in the platform, in no world can your platform, so as an example, like these are fine to be built on SharePoint lists, okay? These types of solutions aren't. You should not be building mission critical solutions on top of like 30 SharePoint lists. It's a bad idea. You should be building these types of solutions on things like Dataverse or SQL. Now, here's the thing. In no world can a simple business case cost the same as a mission critical use case. It never will. If it does, you're doing the wrong thing. If the technology is exactly the same for both, let me tell you, you're doing the wrong thing again, right? If you're using Dataverse for like personal team productivity, fine. It'll work really well. But that's like buying a Ferrari and driving it 2 meters down the road every day. Look, you're going to look really good, but you're paying, the value is just massively high, right? So it's fine to do these types of things on SharePoint, but doing this type of thing on a SharePoint list is like it's basically like buying a VW Beetle and driving around the world 5 times. It's gonna break. And when it does, who's gonna fix it, right? And that's the thing. These mission critical apps or solutions are bent or built on what we call mission critical data structures, right? And that's really important. So when you look at the Power Platform, I'm going to show you something real quick. When you look at the Power Platform, it's kind of like building a house. So let me just drag this image across. Think of it as like you got lots of little data structures. Building on Excel is fine, but it will break. Excel's not a database. It never has been one, so don't use it as one, right? I still don't understand why people build apps on spreadsheets. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I think it's a terrible idea, right? At least moving out to SharePoint, you've got some level of security and relational data structure that you can use. So it is monitored a bit more. Dataverse for Teams will give you a lot more relational structure and a lot more space to save data. So, I mean, you're limited to like 2 million records here, or 2 gigs. Putting 2 million records in a SharePoint list is a stupid idea, right? Do it if you want, you're going to break it. That's just my advice. Then when you get to Dataverse, absolutely store as much data as you want in there. Go nuts. Biggest Dataverse data storage structure that I've heard of from a capacity perspective is 6 terabytes. So you can put as much data in there as you want. Remember, it's all built on top of Azure. But also the thing is you will hit storage costs. Okay. So if you go too big on the Dataverse side, you may run into storage issues. So one of the other core things is you have the ability to store data inside SQL. Okay. But remember, when you're looking at your app types, simple business use cases are fine here. Okay. But you're not going to put mission critical use cases on like a load of SharePoint lists. If you do, you're going to have performance problems. This is where your mission critical stuff lives. Okay. Don't disrespect your data. It's very simple. If you do, it will break. So moving on to the next bit. Now, folks, you're going to need your mobile phone. So if you're on Tinder or Candy Crush, yeah, jump off there and do me a favor. And we're gonna do a quick interactive demo. So I'm putting a link to a Microsoft form in the chat, or you can go ahead and you can scan this QR code here just to fill in a form. So what we're going to do is we're going to replicate something, and I'm actually going to show you how to build a very quick Power Platform solution and provide some really, really immediate value. So all you got to do is hold up your phone, go ahead and scan that QR code. You'll land up on a Microsoft form. And the story is, right, and this is a real thing that happened that we demoed some time back. In your council or in your area, right, you will have a municipality or people that actually help the municipality fix leaks in the road. And, you know, whenever you see that water gushing through a gutter, or, you know, a fire hydrant that's broken, what you may find is people reporting those issues. So what they might do is they may go into a website and they may say, hey, you know, this is where we're seeing the issue take place. Would you mind coming to help us solve it? And what will happen is the municipality will pop in and they might send a repair crew, you know, field service type stuff. They may send some people to go out and go and fix these things. So what we're going to do is we're going to replicate that. And what I've done is this form is the form that's going to let you report the incident or report the leak, right? So just remember to reiterate, you will have an organization in your area that helps the councils or the municipalities fix leaks in roads, okay? It's typically a water utilities type approach. What will happen is your citizens within the area will report those leaks that have taken place. Now, they may report them outside their house, they may report them inside their house, but effectively it's got to do with water leaks. Right. So hopefully you've gotten through that. If you haven't been able to scan the QR code, just use the link, the forms link in the chat. Now, the way that the solution's built is, first of all, you filled in a Microsoft form, okay? Now, I built this. I've not built this on customer voice, okay? I'm not using the Dataverse integration, all right? Purely because I need flat data. So I'm using Power Automate to move that information into a flat table in Dataverse, okay? Very straightforward. So you're giving me data here. I'm taking that data and putting it in here. I'm using Power BI to report on all of the data you give me. Okay, so all the data you share with me, Power BI is being used to report on it. What I'm also doing is I have a model-driven app, which is Dynamics in this scenario. The model-driven app helps me manage that data, okay? So it'll be a work order. I have a business process flow helping me manage that data. And then finally, I'm going to build a Canvas app for my external person to use to go and interact with that data. Now, in this scenario, we're not using AI Builder. I just didn't have time, and it's all embedded in Microsoft Teams. So what I thought we would do is do a live view on how this all works, right? So Power Platform, random live demo. Let's hope this works, because it could go horribly wrong. So there we are, right? I'm dragging my screen over. Could one of you confirm that you can see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So you can see that I've got two forms that have been captured, right? Fantastic. So there's two pieces of information that have been captured. Now that tells me that you guys are capturing data into my form, right? So remember, all I'm showing you is everything embedded inside Microsoft Teams. Great. So to make sure that I'm not speaking absolute rubbish, here's the form that you just filled in, okay? Very, very easy to do. So I could pop information in there. In fact, I'll do it for you right now. So we're going to go 130. Let's go for 20. Let's go for 20 Abbey Road, and that's going to be theatre. We'll stick in that it's a medium leak that's happened in the road. My name is Chris. Moving forward, my email address is Chris at cool. And my city is Dublin. I'm actually not in Dublin. I'm just using a random address in DU01. Cool. So very easy for me to go and submit one of those things. I can also manage and monitor what people have been filling in. So you can see I've got quite a good number of responses here from some people. When I go directly back into Teams, you'll see that a post will land up directly against the wall over there telling me that something's gone wrong. Okay, so remember, all I've done is I've shown you these two things here. A Microsoft form with information being pulled into Teams. I'm going to move over to the Power Automate piece and show you how I got that data. Now, before I do that, just to make sure I'm not speaking rubbish, check this out. In my field services, Dynamics 365 field services table, if you take a look, there's been a bunch of records that have been created here. Now, this environment is an hour out, I do apologize, but you can actually see these are the work orders that have just been generated based on information you guys captured. That's pretty cool, right? So the information you guys captured is available right here. If I pick this one over there, let's take a look at the work order. Let's pick the leakage. There we go. That's the one I just added. Well, I ran the test on. Pick another one over there. There we go. Faisal, thanks, bud. Cool. So your information is live in Dynamics right now, ready for work order scheduling. Okay. So to make sure you understand, all I did was I've taken your data from there and I've put it in, and I've put it inside Dataverse. All right. Dynamics is a Power App, remember, so it just lives inside Dataverse. How does that all work? Well, let me show you. One last thing, just as a heads up, it is going to email me random things the whole time. So like as things happen, you'll see that I start getting random emails. So if you did use your email address, you'll get a message directly from Power Automate. So how did that all work? Well, let me show you. So if I go into my leak report form, you'll see a bunch of flows that have run, or Power Automate flows that have run. Let's give it a sec. It might take a moment to load. And ultimately, this is the thing that's moving my data around, right? So this is basically the glue that holds my data together. Let's give it one more second to reload. Sometimes it does need a bit of a refresh. It has been open for a bit of time. Okay, there we go. Leak report form. There we go. So lots of successes, maybe some failures. If I go into the latest one, I'll be able to see what actually took place. And I'll actually show you what I'm doing. So first of all, I've got that information directly submitted from the form. I'm grabbing that data and I'm putting it in a staging table in a SharePoint list. Okay, it's so that I can vet the data before I put it inside Dataverse. So actually, I'm taking a look at the data and saying, is this a real leak report? Yes or no? And then I'm moving it over into Dataverse over here. Very simply, here's the records that get created. Right, so there we go there. And then finally posting to Teams and sending an email. So that's pretty straightforward, right? Very, very simple Power App solution. This will take you roughly, I don't know, 20 minutes to build the whole thing. So remember, all you've done, you've given me data. I'm using Power Automate and putting it in Dataverse, right? I've shown you the model-driven app in the form of Dynamics. So I'm going to open up Dynamics once again. This is a model-driven app, right? Dynamics is a model-driven app built on top of Dataverse. So it's very easy to manage that data. Okay, so hopefully you're all with me so far. The next thing I want to show you is, well, let's take a look at the sort of mid-table. So I've got my list of leaks. This is a SharePoint list. And you can actually see all of the data that was captured would have been stored directly inside my list. Okay, so anything that would have been brought in gets moved to my SharePoint list. I check it first, and then I move it over into my database itself, into my Dataverse table. The reason I store it in here first is so that I can do a check on it, which I'm not actually doing live. And the most important thing is that I only move the right data over using Power Automate. So that's really key. Okay, so very, very straightforward. This is just my staging table. If I go into my analytics, now this isn't live, unfortunately, so I'm not using the live connector, but I have got my reporting living directly on top of it. You can see that I've got a Power BI report. And the Power BI report shows me from a location perspective where all of those leaks are taking place and in what areas. So obviously the last place I did this was in Ireland. So you can see that there's a bunch of leaks that have happened directly inside Dublin over there, and you can filter. Now, the reason I'm showing you all of this is because this is pretty important from an app perspective. Like, if I'm going to build an app to help my external people go and manage these leaks, how am I going to do it, right? Well, effectively, what I want to be able to do is use Power Apps, Canvas apps to help maintain and help these people manage these leaks. Now, I can build it directly on top of Dataverse. For the demo, I'm just going to build it on top of SharePoint to show you how fast I can build an app. Right, so watch this. Okay, remember, this is going to be for external people to go and check those leaks out. So if I go back to my list of leaks over here, and I decide, okay, cool, this looks pretty good, I'm going to go ahead and build an app. In Power Apps, you've got the ability to create an app immediately. Now, before I go ahead and show you this, I want to show you something in the maker experience, right? This is where we normally go to build apps. You can see over here that my demo environment has got a list of applications. Very easy. I can go ahead and say, create a Canvas app. And give it a second. It might take a moment to load. And once you've decided to start building your app, you can just select your data source. So I could quite easily do the exact same app, but directly on top of the work order table. Whoops. Well, give it a sec. I could quite easily go ahead and build my app directly on here. Now, one thing I do want to tell you before before everyone freaks out, it's pretty important to know that work order is now a premium connector. You need to have it's now in the restricted entity list. You need to have a Dynamics license if you are going to be linking up to work orders. You can also build your solutions on top of things like bookable resource bookings directly in Dynamics. Okay, so bookable resource bookings is not premium. Read the licensing guide, it ultimately will be. Okay, so that's just the theory that I have, right? I think that Microsoft will eventually democratize all of the first-party app capabilities into mostly restricted entities. Anyway, we're not going to go down that road, right? Let's get into the fun stuff. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say Power Apps, create an app, and we're going to call this test leak management 01. Hit create, and normally this is where I kick back and go and get a coffee or something. It takes a couple of seconds, roughly 30 seconds. So let's keep myself honest, right? Cool, it's been 5 so far. So while that's loading, all I'm showing you is how to build an app on top of this layer over here, right? Very, very simple. Now, the only reason I can do this really quickly is because, right, I have got the right security permissions inside my data structure. If I don't have the right security permissions, I won't be able to build the app. Okay, so that took exactly 27 seconds. Very, very simple. You can do some pretty cool stuff with this, right? So you can go ahead and you can add different themes, but this is my typical 3-screen app. Okay, there we go. Some very basic stuff. If I run this app immediately to show you that it works straight off the bat, I can go title. We're going to call it ZZZ because I know that'll go to the bottom. Chris, oops, when I learn to spell my name.
Chris, you there? I seems he's dropped off. We just wait for a couple of minutes for him to rejoin.
Hey, folks, sorry.
All good.
Yeah, I apologize. I actually have no idea what happened. Looks like my entire internet connection just dropped.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Let me have a look. Wow, literally lost the whole internet connection. I don't know. I don't know where I left you. I don't know where I left off.
You were explaining about the water leakage, the forms, and how did you build that one? And
This
you
works.
started, yeah, you started creating a new app.
All right. Okay. So I'm sorry about that, but yeah. So basically, on the new app build, effectively, what will happen is that you can kind of run your app direct, and that app will respect the data source, right? So no matter wherever you're saving your data, it respects the data storage. So it'll save it literally immediately, right? Now that's pretty key because if your data storage, wherever you're putting it, does not allow for certain data to be saved, your app will respect that. So check it out. There's the one I just saved, right? No weird integrations, no Power Automate, just a direct connection. And then what's pretty cool from an app perspective is you can start actually building out your own themes and things. So one of the things I found with customers is that, and I'm going to say something quite controversial, a lot of customers really don't like model-driven apps, and it's a lot of the time it's because they can be quite like um, mundane from a user experience perspective. So they prefer the Canvas side of things, but what I will say is with Canvas apps, they don't replace model-driven apps, and they're not meant to. I would never build a line of business solution inside a Canvas app. It's not a good idea, right? And I think people need to learn that. I think it's pretty important that when you start thinking about like the type of solution a customer needs, it's the Canvas apps are not always the answer, right? I do a lot of embedding model-driven apps Canvas apps inside model-driven apps, which is pretty fun. But please, please don't see these as a replacement for model-driven. Also, what we see a lot of is people using alongside dynamic of being able being able to build out functionality that would take them a long time in X++. You can do this really easy using a Canvas app, and you can just so the functionality isn't meant to replace Dynamics. It's not meant to remove Dynamics. It's meant to copy analogy. When you're looking at different types of Lego bricks, you can snap a fairy princess castle directly onto a I don't know, a spaceship. The Lego will naturally fit together because it's made of the same platform. It's exactly the same thing here. As long as you're like keeping the Power Platform elements together, you're good. So all I'm really doing is I'm just adding in some very basic icons, like making it very, very simple to interact with. But it's important, you can keep on expanding more and more and more, and simply just plug that functionality directly back into Dynamics or directly back into Microsoft Teams. So when building out your app, please don't make the assumption that it's like, one app and you're gonna kind of, these things that I'm showing you are meant to be reusable, right? So think about what Dynamics does really well. Dynamics gives you reusability in the components that you're building. It should be the same as when you're building out Canvas apps. You want that, and that's really important. So reusability is really, really key when creating solutions. So here, when you take a look at this diagram that I've just given you, right? All you've done is you've given me data. I've taken that data, moved it into Dataverse. I showed you a model-driven app in the form of Dynamics. I built a very quick Canvas app, and I've got Power BI. But all these pieces that I've built here are reusable, okay? I can use that form inside another solution. I don't have to be pushing all the data to Dataverse. The flow is probably the thing that like I would need to kind of keep standard here, but Dynamics, the model-driven app, you're constantly reusing across the business. The Canvas app, even though it talks to one thing, you can reuse across the business. So the way to make money from all of this and give customers value is building reusable components using the platform. So if you think about like Lego bricks and you think about the way that Lego bricks are structured, you can reuse those bricks. In the same way I've got the word maker at the top there, I can stick my maker stuff together to make something else, but it's still the platform. It's the same thing here, right? The platform is the platform, okay? Now here's the thing with custom development, think about it like, if I can't find a Lego brick that I really want to build something with, okay, if I know how to write code, I can make that brick. I can make that digital component for the Power Platform. I can build out those PCF components, okay? I can build out custom plugins and I can reuse them. So instead of writing code and reusing it instead of writing code over and over again, developers, we're looking for you guys to use your really strong build skills to create things that we can reuse in the platform. So as I said before, this Canvas app is a really, really simple idea of me creating something really easy. But I can, yesterday I built a Canvas app. I embedded it in a model-driven app. I've got a bunch of people using it somewhere else. I'm collecting data. And all the time I'm collecting data, I'm building it and adding it into a reusable Power BI report. So the whole idea behind the Power Platform is like microservices all the way, okay? And that's really key. Yes, I've made something very simple and I've done a very simple demo, but that reusability is the most important part of that platform, okay? And I'm hoping you understand that. So to wrap up, right, I want you to take a couple of things just to think about. So the first thing is, number one, the Power Platform is a platform, right? It's not a first-party app like Dynamics. It is a platform. It is much bigger, okay? Dynamics solves targeted problems. Dynamics solves problems that are like, I have a ledger issue. I can't do my sales properly. I need to do marketing correctly. Dynamics solves those problems really easily, right? But what about problems you don't know? What about that massive kind of idea of, well, I want to be able to build something that does X, but how do I do that? Well, the Power Platform really gives you the opportunity to solve problems that you don't necessarily know you have, right? Getting rid of those paper processes are really quick wins. But the platform is the thing that underpins Dynamics, right? It spears through all of the different service areas, Azure, M365, and Biz apps. So really, really key for you guys to understand that when you are leveraging the Power Platform, you're not just using business applications. You're using Azure, you're using Modern Workplace, okay? The second thing to take away, very importantly, is that this is supposed to be reusable. It's not like a use once and throw away. So rethink the way that you're building out those different pieces and rethink the way that you're building out those components. And also, last but not least, take a look at the Microsoft Learning Path. It's got some great opportunities in there. I've just done the Power Platform architecture exam. It was interesting in beta, but I'd highly recommend you check it out. And I'm telling you all that this bus is it's already leaving. So please make sure you start learning the platform. It's really, really key. So yeah, thank you very much. I apologize for the internet glitch. That was not cool, but hopefully we can splice it all together and it looks awesome. So yeah, thank you very much for having me, folks.
No, thank you so much to you, uh, Chris. It was a great introduction about and great path how we can learn, how we can. We have people so many from different fences, like from Dynamics
Mm,
365, we have from finance and operations, from Azure. But as you rightly said, Power Platform is a big platform, and
mm.
this is a time when we all need to start learning. Uh, Thank you so much for all the efforts and for all the demos. I really like the idea of submitting the form and putting everything into the team. That's something really helpful for the people like myself who have
Mm.
been hosting so many sessions online. Sometimes it's very difficult. You ask for the call for the speaker and they put all the information into the form, Microsoft Forms, and you need to compile, you need to export that one because there is a limitation of uh, holding that. Only 200 responses can come up
Yeah.
with a free license. So you need to export those ones. You need to keep a copy of somewhere. Then you need to empty that one, delete that one. But it's very nice. Like you can easily export those one into the SharePoint, make a Power App on that one, dump your data into DataWorks automatically with the flow, and that's pretty cool. I really like the idea.
Yeah, it's worked well for me. I mean, honestly, the app piece, like the reason I built the app from scratch is to show you guys that anyone can build an app. That's not the
Yeah,
special part that's not the special parts of the platform. The
yes,
special
yes,
part is understanding how and why uh, this stuff works and like
absolutely.
using the automation there. This part, we can all do this. I mean, we can do this now. We can build an app in 30 seconds, and that's why I did that. It's key
Yes,
that you know that the Power Platform is not just about apps. It's way, way bigger than just apps.
absolutely. No, that's absolutely true. Amazing. Uh, I don't see any question in the chat window,
Cool.
so I will not hold you long. But thank you again so much for your time, and I'm looking forward for more sessions from your side. I really
Yeah.
love your session.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. And I know it's a busy day for you guys, so hopefully you got something out of this. And yeah, just hit me up on LinkedIn if you want to chat. Like I'll try to be responsive. It's just a bit busy at the moment.
No, absolutely. No, you are very responsive, definitely. And thank you so much. And a
Anytime.
pleasure having you again.
Oh,
And
thank you, man.
see you